Hello and welcome to Real Menopause Talk. My guest today is Debs Wallbank. Deb's story begins in a way that may be familiar to many of us, but the twists and turns are a perfect illustration of why so much we need education on menopause in simple biological form to be mainstream. In this episode, she takes us from Meno hell to Menopausitivity and her triumphs of today.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Debs. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Lovely to re-meet you because we met at the World Menopause Day rally, which was just phenomenal. Did you have a good time?
I had more than a good time. It was incredible this year. I went last year as well, but I was very new to the menopause revolution, if you like. I knew no one except for Gail, who has been on your podcast previously. So I arranged to meet up with her and then was introduced to loads of her menoflockers. But I still felt very, not alien to it, but just not quite part of it yet. But that really started the journey for me. And this year was a whole different ballgame. I mean, I think I knew about 80% of the people that were there.
Wow.
And this year, I even had people coming up to me saying, "Oh, hi, I follow you on Instagram. It's lovely to meet you." So it was very surreal, but yeah, fantastic event, really good energy, loads of great information. And I think it was more of an event this year than last year.
I missed it last year completely because I hadn't even launched actually, and I didn't find out about it until it was too late. But it was just amazing to meet in person some of the people I'd interviewed and then more people and seeing all the work that Carolyn Harris and her team and Diane Danzebrink have all put in. It was brilliant. So next year will be even bigger.
Yes, I hope so. I hope they do it every year. I mean, there's a long time to go, I think, before all our plans and dreams are fulfilled with regards to menopause and things going on in the government. So I would like to think there will be at least an annual event, maybe more often when things start to move a bit faster. Who knows?
That would be exciting. Put it out there.
Yes, I will.
So to begin with, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about you?
Yes, of course. So I am 48, approaching 49 very rapidly, but I don't mind. It's just a number to me. It really is. I don't feel like I'm an almost 50-year-old. And anyway, what is that? What is a 50-year-old? Nowadays it doesn't really matter so much, but I just really give you my age so that you have it in relation to my menopause story. As you can hear, I'm Scottish. I was born in Aberdeen. I've lived in Aberdeenshire most of my life. However, I have had a few stints up and down the country for various life reasons, really, be it marriage, be it jobs, be it just circumstance. So I've lived in London, I've lived in Worcestershire, I've lived on Orkney, which is a very remote island off the north of Scotland, if you don't know it. I now live in Shropshire. And part of my journey was via Australia for 2 months with my now ex-husband. We'll talk about that later if you want to. I've kind of experienced a lot of the country. And to me, I think that's really important, just to get out and about and not be stuck in the same place, because there's so much to see and so many other great people to meet. And the fact I've kind of built a life for myself where I can live and work from wherever I want. So I have that freedom now. And it's just amazing to know that home can be anywhere. And I love that. I'm very much a free spirit. So I tend to get a bit restless if I'm in one place for too long.
We were talking about that just last night, and my youngest is determined to visit every country in the world if it is at all possible. So I'm like, crack on, girl. She's got time, so we'll see. Yeah, amazing. And yes, wherever you wish to be, you can make your home if you choose.
Exactly.
So whereabouts are you in terms of menopause, perimenopause currently?
So at the moment, I'm officially postmenopause, but I am still having some bleeds, but they're not period type bleeds. They're as a result of an endometrial issue that I have at the minute, which has been born from an incorrect prescription from the GP. So it only adds to my passion for raising awareness and improving education and having everyone just know what they need, for themselves as well. So my journey really started when I was 39, as far as I can remember.
Right.
It's really hard to put an official date on it, but I think I was about 39. So definitely early menopause and potentially premature menopause, which are slightly different things. I didn't know what it was for 6 years. So in those 6 years, I was hit with pretty much every symptom that you can find on the list. There's one or two I haven't had, but they're not many. I've also experienced a huge element of the bigger impact of menopause on your life over and above the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
I lost multiple jobs back to back. I went through a divorce. I was forced to relocate. Not that, as we've just discovered, doesn't really faze me, but with everything else going on, that was a massive thing for me. And also, I didn't really know where I was supposed to go. That was the other thing at this time. It was like, help, where can I afford to live? Because the divorce obviously was not cheap, and losing jobs was hugely detrimental to my finances. So I was basically broke. And then I broke in my head as well. I had a full mental breakdown. I was suicidal. And eventually I managed to pull myself out of that enough to go to the doctor to discuss energy levels, because I am underactive thyroid and I'm B12 deficient. And I just thought this was a really, really bad bout of depression, like I've never had. However, thankfully, I've always had good GPs, and I'm really grateful for that they tested me straight away. And they did start me on HRT. We'll talk more about my HRT journey later if you want more specifics, because it hasn't been plain sailing for me. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for women to know, A, what's available, and B, what they should be having.
Yeah.
So we can get to that later. But yeah, the HRT, it was almost overnight that it really helped with my motivation and my will to live. It made me see that things could be better. And they really helped clear my head to start thinking about, what can I do to help myself to get out of this situation? Because I was still broke. I was unemployed, trying to build various online ventures, mostly network marketing orientated, but with little success, because the brain wasn't working properly. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the focus, the motivation, all of these things. So I was making dribs and drabs of money, but not enough to live on. And I'd even started a pet sitting business, thinking, this is great. I don't feel great. I don't really want to be around people, but I love pets. I love animals. I couldn't even do that very well because I just didn't want to be anywhere but my own bed. My home comforts were everything to me at this point, and the thought of having to pack, to go to someone's house, to stay in an alien environment for 2 or more weeks sometimes was really difficult. So I did it, but again, my heart wasn't really in it, so it wasn't probably the success it could have been. And so now I am just in a whole different place. I feel that I'm literally a different person to the one I've just told you about, because everything now has purpose for me, and I'm very clear with what I want to achieve. I know where I can get support if I need it, but for the most part, my menopause is now stable, and it's now become my mission. So it's a complete turnaround for me, and I love that, because I get to use everything I've gone through to help other women.
That is all just remarkable, and a reminder why so many of us have got involved in this realm to support others and make sure they don't feel how many of us, or certainly the most severe cases, have felt. And even if they have smaller symptoms, they are manageable, and it is possible to come through the other side. So you mentioned that you're on HRT, but it's not been straightforward. Do you want to take us through that, and then we can go into more things afterwards?
For sure. And, I want to talk about this not to scare people, because I am hugely in favour of HRT. If you can have it, please do, because I don't think I would be here right now. And it makes me very emotional to say this, because it's scary to think that I might not have been here if it hadn't been for HRT. But the key is to understand what you need and persevere until you get the right sort of combination that's going to work for you. So in the beginning, when I went to the doctor the first time after my breakdown, I was tested at that point, and again 3 months later. And blood tests, you probably know, they're not conclusive.
Mm-hmm.
They're very erratic because your hormones are all over the place. So you could test yourself in the morning, test yourself in the afternoon, and get two totally different results. So they're not a guarantee, but if you are under 45, they're a very good indicator that you could be perimenopausal. So I had my two tests, and they both were very indicative that that was the case for me. And I was offered HRT immediately. The risks were discussed with me, and they were extremely low, as they are across the board now. It's so much safer than it's ever been. Drinking a glass of red wine a day is more likely to cause breast cancer than HRT. Being overweight has a higher risk. There are loads of other things that are far more risky to your health than HRT now. So it's really important to understand that it is okay to use it. It's not the same as when your mum or your gran maybe had it before. It's totally different product. So the risks to me in particular were next to none. And I'm quite happy to take something if it's going to make me feel better. I don't have any hang-ups about, I don't want to put chemicals in my body. I don't want to do this, that, or the other. I just want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what's the harm, right? Let me just try it and see. I tried it for a month. And as I say, it had almost an immediate impact in many ways. There were lots of symptoms didn't go quickly, but that's normal. However, this was in 2020. Now, we're going through a shortage at the moment of HRT, as I'm sure most women know, and it's horrendous. But it happened previously in 2020. And it happened right as I had started HRT. So I went to get my prescription filled after the first month and wasn't available. They tried to switch me onto a different product because there are many different formulations, brands, styles available of all the products. I couldn't get anything. So I actually then had no HRT for months. And after those months, my symptoms really went downhill by this point. It was worse. It wasn't until maybe the Christmas, it kind of came back into my mind that, oh gosh, I was supposed to keep checking if HRT had come back in stock. And the GP didn't follow up, the pharmacies didn't follow up. So I literally had gone a whole year without HRT.
Having had it for how long in the first place?
A month. So I'd only had a taster, but I could see it had already had a good effect.
Mm-hmm.
This is when I had my breakdown because my symptoms just crashed. They were already bad enough at the first point to be thinking HRT, but they went through the floor. It seemed to happen overnight. Like a switch had been pulled and I didn't want to wake up. In fact, I just didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to necessarily do something about it. I just didn't want to be awake and have to deal with life. I just wanted to hide all away, So at this point, I went back to the doctor, again, forgetting about the whole menopause situation. It had fallen out of my head, that information. And I went back to just discuss depression, thinking it was a really, really bad depression. We reviewed my notes. The GP could see I'd been given HRT before, asked why I'd stopped it. I explained it wasn't my fault. And then, I'd just forgotten all about it. So I was put back on it straight away, which was great. I was like, oh, fantastic, HRT. And I was on it continuously for another year. By this point, I'm very postmenopausal, so no bleeding at all, and hadn't been for the best part of 2 years now, until February this year. And I had a 3-week-long bleed out of the blue. So, of course, I was instantly concerned, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the GP, and we discovered that my HRT I'd been taking for a year was estrogen only. And I didn't know anything about this. Nobody explained what you needed when I went to the doctor. I didn't know because I wasn't doing what I do now. I hadn't done any research. I just went and said, yes, thank you, doctor. I trust you. I'll take this.
Exactly.
But because I still have my womb, and this is the important part that women need to know, if you have your womb or any part of it, you also need progesterone because estrogen causes a buildup of your endometrium and the progesterone helps flush that away, or at least stop it from becoming larger. But without progesterone, for an entire year, my endometrium had become so thick that it had caused this bleed in an attempt to sort things out. So I have undergone, since February, I've now had 3 biopsies, multiple tests at the hospital. I've had 2 further bleeds, each 3 weeks long. They got worse each time, and they were extremely painful these times round, to such a point that I actually had to call an ambulance twice because the pain was horrific and I was just losing so much blood that, I lost all colour in myself. I had no energy whatsoever. So it was really quite alarming.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what was causing it, but it still wasn't something I really wanted to endure. So I'm still going through that process at the moment. I have had, thankfully, good results from my latest biopsy that although my cells had changed at one point, they haven't changed further. And the new medication I've been given is working to reduce the thickness of the lining. So touch wood, everything is now going back on the straight and narrow. But it's something else I've now learned about that I wish I'd understood before. So it's really important that although GPs, they're great, they do a good job, but they just don't have the education at the moment. A lot of them don't anyway. So make sure you are getting what you're supposed to get. Do your research first, know what HRT you feel you want, and ensure that you're getting the correct hormones back.
I'm kind of lost for words because the fact that you reached such a low point to begin with, which I know many women do, and it is possible to come back from, thank goodness. But then to have to go through physical pain and the bleeds when you really should be through all of that by now. I'm so sorry you've had that experience. And you're right, the GPs do a wonderful job. It is just that many of them are not educated in menopause as yet, although we're working.
Correct.
What is your prognosis, first of all? The most important thing right now in this moment is what have they said happens next for you?
Okay, so I have multiple choices now that we know my cells are not cancerous, because that was the biggest risk.
Mm-hmm.
If they had been, I would have had no question about just having everything removed, because I just don't want to live with that risk for the rest of my life. However, that is not the case. So having everything removed is still an option, but it's obviously very extreme. I can have a Mirena coil fitted, which I know lots of women have and have had great success. But personally, to me, it's just something that I don't fancy, quite frankly. It's just that the thought of something inside of me doesn't appeal. However, I am considering it because the other option is to stay on this higher dose of progesterone, which is, it's obviously stronger for a purpose, but it comes with a slightly higher risk as well. And it's probably not as effective as the Mirena coil. So they're really my options. I am well now, thankfully. I have been extremely unwell for about 2 months, but now I feel back to normal. So I'm just looking forward to, I say looking forward to loosely, my next biopsy to make sure things are definitely continuing to go in the right direction. And then I will make a decision as to the more permanent solution for me. And it may well be the coil once I can get my head around it.
Oh, well, good luck. I hope it all goes really well. And please keep me posted. I need to know that everything is successful for you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Menopausitivity, the magazine, and the wonderful things that you are doing.
Well, the magazine has been born of me kind of working out the best way that I can help women not go through what I've been through as best I can. I can't obviously help every single woman in the world as much as I'd love to, but if I can help a handful of women not experience the worst side of menopause, then my job is done and I'll be happy. So I've investigated various ways of doing this over the last 8 months or so. And what started off as a newsletter, a simple 4-page newsletter to my website subscribers, but it became really clear that A, there was loads I wanted to say, and B, there's so much information now flooding the internet and social media that there's so much more I could have put into this publication, if you like, to sort of centralize it all for women and save them the time and effort to try and find these things on the internet, finding the people to follow. I can give them all that in one place. So it very quickly became, over the course of 2 or 3 issues, an online flip book, which is sort of fully not interactive, I guess, but with clickable links to all the people that I mention, all the products that I share about, all the good stuff. You can just go straight to these places with a click of a mouse. And it's now almost 40 pages long. So it's become this beast, which I absolutely love, but it can be bigger yet. And it's going to be bigger yet because I'm very grateful that thanks to the rally, thanks to social media, thanks to Menopause Mandate, who I must mention, I now have contacts with some serious power in the world of menopause who I can now actually approach, and many of whom have already said yes to helping me with the magazine by way of providing original content, so, exclusive to me, which is fantastic, and also sharing about it on their socials. So I hope to really get the magazine out there to a much, much bigger audience and be able to give them so much more information.
It'll be the Vogue of menopause.
Tatler, darling.
Tatler. That's so exciting. So it has literally multiplied tenfold since you began.
In a few months. I only started doing the first newsletter about 6 months ago.
That is brilliant.
I just know next year is going to be even bigger and faster. So I can't wait to see what's coming next.
What plans do you have?
Well, so the magazine is obviously growing, and that's the baby of the bunch, I guess, is the magazine. And I've made a vow that it will always be free. How I will make that happen is work in progress, but I fundamentally believe that it should be a free resource. From there, there's a book. I know there's loads of menopause books out there already, and they're all fantastic in their own way. However, I believe mine will be different because it's not going to be quite so much focused on the symptoms, HRT, things like that, medical side of it. It's much more going to be about the mental health side of it. So your mindset, holistic practices you can use, self-coaching techniques, all of these things that I have used that have helped me get to this point in my menopause and actually be able to reflect and say, well, yeah, it's all been worth it. And I love who I am. I can accept exactly how I am at present. And I'm able to formulate a vision and a plan for moving forward. And that is what I would love for other women. What that plan is for them will be different. Everybody has their own ideas of how they want to spend this part of their life. But it will be very much giving them clarity around menopause in the briefest of ways that I can do it, but more about connection with themselves and, of course, other people. And then confidence, ultimately, because I feel that's the thing that I have developed the most in myself. And it's where I know I can really, really impact other women's lives by helping them be more confident in themselves and knowing what they want. So the book will be partnered with a journal, which will be a 3-month journal. So obviously, if they want to keep doing it, they might need another journal. But the journal will be really just their own personal record of their journey. It will help them have discussions with their GP. It will give them reminders and prompts for the mindset work. And it'll just be maybe some quotes in there, a little bit of fun as well, just to keep everything on the positive, happy side. They don't need to have both, but they're designed to be together. From there, I hope to expand my coaching business even further and take people on a full journey. Clarity, connection, confidence is my tagline. However, once they get to the confidence part, then what can they do? My other passion is social media and online business. And I have learned a lot of how not to do that over the last decade. And I'm very well placed with other people that I follow to know what is working nowadays. So the ultimate goal is to take a woman who is struggling with her menopause, to get her to be this confident person and be assured that she's doing the best she can for herself. Then to help her share her voice online. Maybe it's just to raise awareness. Maybe it's just to vent. That's great. If that's where their journey ends with me, fantastic. However, if they want to continue further and either turn an existing business into a menopause-specific business or start a new business in order to help people even further, that's the next bit and the final stage that I can help them with. So it's this whole transition, and I'm really excited to... I've done each part of it already with clients, but not as a full journey and experience. So I can't wait to actually get that up and running.
That is so exciting and really, really inspirational. One of the things I hear the most, and one of the things I've suffered from the most as well, is the lack of confidence, the lack of self, the sort of anxiety that goes together. So just before we round up, what would be one tip to boost your confidence?
First and foremost, stop giving a fuck about what everybody else thinks of you. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they think of you. If they love you, they love you. That's great. If they don't, they've no place in your life anyway. So it's learning to kind of bolster yourself up a bit, to not care what they think. And the second you can do that, and I speak from the heart here, this is what happened to me. The second I stopped caring about others in their thoughts, doors were opened, and it was so liberating, so emotionally freeing. It felt like my baggage was all left somewhere else. And it enabled me just to do the things I want to do and the things I'm really passionate about. And I think everyone should have that opportunity.
Thank you. It has been such a pleasure listening to you and hearing the end of part of your experience and the beginning of what sounds like very, very, very exciting times.
Yes, I believe so too. And, I even have goosebumps just hearing you saying that back to me makes me so emotional. And you know what? If I can do it, anyone can, because I've done this purely by myself, blood, sweat and tears, literally. But it can be done. You can change your life. You can have an impact and you can truly help other people if you want to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. You can find Debs on Instagram at the Menopause Confidence Coach and at her website menopausitivity.co.uk. I will leave all the details and the spellings on the show notes. Follow us on the podcast app of your choice and sign up to our New Look newsletter to stay up to date with new episodes and a few extras as well. Simply go to the website realmenopausetalk.com, scroll down and click subscribe. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.